Okay, here we are. Alt.nerd.obsessive.
We don't want any more bears!
Hey everybody, welcome to Worst Episode Ever, a podcast for people who love The Simpsons, by people who love The Simpsons, about how much we hate The Simpsons. We're here trying to find which is the worst episode ever. My name is Dan.
My name is Jack.
And today we are back. We got a new episode for you here today. It's from season 16. And it originally aired in February of 2005. It's called There's Something About Marrying. Jack, have you seen this episode?
I'm pretty sure, yes, I have. I don't remember any. I remember some broad strokes.
Yeah. I have not seen this episode. I don't really know what it's about. I think we're watching it because it's a gay Pride Month?
Yeah,
so is that accurate?
June, it's June, and I think it used to be Gay Pride Month. I think now it's broader. Maybe it's LGBTQ. I don't know.
Whatever it is, it's a good time to celebrate the gays.
And this is a famous episode where Patty comes out of the closet and I guess she's been an out lesbian ever since, in the 10 years of loose continuity the show has.
Right.
And it's good that you should watch this episode now, because you didn't even know she was out.
I had no idea. No, not at all.
So I'm sure it's going to come up in some of the episodes we cover from season 17 on.
Right.
So,
well, it came up. Did it come up in, was it Romeo Old and Juliet?
Yeah.
Or maybe it was the one where they adopt the baby? Goo Goo Guy Pam?
it's probably
one of those. I feel like we mentioned this episode,
you were
and
like,
I was like, I had no idea. Yeah. So that's fun. We're just referencing old episodes and things we may or may not have said.
You should go back and listen to them.
Go back and listen. If this is the first episode you're listening, listen to all 32 of the other ones. 33? What episode is this? 34. This is episode 34.
The non-empty nest episode. Yeah, 32.
That's right. So we are going to take a break in a moment to watch this episode, and if you haven't done that, you should do the same. You can do that through simpsonsworld.com. If you are an FXX subscriber, you can do it that way. If you live in Europe, as we discussed a few weeks ago, you are shit out of luck, so sorry. There are ways to find episodes out there, I'm sure. Not that we support them, but we do support Simpsons World, and clicking through Amazon. You can buy this episode on Amazon, I believe. Go through wepodcast.com. You can click through. That helps us out. And you get to watch an episode that may or may not be good. We're going to take a break right now, and we will come back and figure out if this episode is any good.
See you soon.
You can guess all night and never get it. Her name's Veronica. But Veronica's a girl's name. Did you know that? I'm marrying a woman. I'm gay. You're not disappointed, are you? Oh, no, I'm just surprised.
Yeah, big surprise. Hey, Marge, here's another bomb. I like beer.
So that was There's Something About Marrying.
It sure was, Jack.
Real quick, let's just get this out of the way. The episode breakdown starts off a TV personality, journalist type travel guide. Mm-hmm. Bashes Springfield and gives it his lowest rating yet, a 6 out of 10.
Right.
Because Bart and Milhouse prank him. So the mayor, they have a town hall meeting. They panic because they need to make Springfield look better. So they legalize gay marriage to help bring in money, and I guess maybe to make them help
prestige
their reputation. But Reverend Lovejoy won't marry anybody because it's against God. So it looks like it's not going to work out.
His opinion, not ours, by the way.
So Homer
there is no God. Everyone knows.
And if there was, he'd be a fucking queer.
Okay, maybe that should be in this. Maybe none of this should be in there.
But Reverend Lovejoy doesn't want to marry them because he believes it's against God. So Homer decides to ordain himself and marry gay couples, only because he sees a get-rich-quick scheme, a way to cash in. And he starts marrying a lot of gay couples in Springfield, including Patty. She decides that she wants Homer to marry them, and she comes out of the closet for the first time openly to the audience, and more importantly to Marge. Marge doesn't actually take it very well. Marge was seemed to have been pro-gay the entire episode, but once it hit home, she was not crazy about it. They have a falling out, but then Marge finds out that Patty's fiancée Veronica is actually a man, and she's happy because that means Patty's straight and doesn't even know it. But
that's how that works.
Yeah. Well, that's how it ends. Is that Patty's actually, even though Veronica claims professes her love to Patty after Marge outs her. Patty doesn't marry her. Patty says no, she doesn't want to marry a man. She's gay, and Marge accepts that, and pretty much the episode ends.
That's the end of the episode.
Homer stops marrying. That's the end of Homer's marrying business. We'll get into that.
Yeah, we'll get into all that. So I guess let's just start right away at the very beginning of the episode. It starts out...
Simpsons.
That's exactly right. Again, the name comes through the clouds. And it's a little ditty that was like...
Well, I'll be twiddling my thumbs.
No, but the actual episode begins... Marhouse and Barton.
Marhouse and Barton, which is, I believe it's a book publishing company in Midtown Manhattan. Marhouse.
Yeah.
Didn't you work there?
Yeah, I did, and my fan fiction is going to be published through Marhouse and Barton later this year. So look for that. Shop through on Amazon, you can find that. No, but back to what I meant to say. Milhouse. I almost said Milhouse and Barton. God damn it.
You'll get there.
Milhouse and Bart are pranking people in Springfield. They have set up this elaborate trap where there is a free beer on the sidewalk, but it's set up to a pulley system with a watermelon on top, a seedless watermelon, very important. And they're kind of waiting for drunks to come along and pick up the beer and get hit with the watermelon.
Right.
So,
What I liked about this is that it started what we call in the biz in medias res, which is Latin for smack in the middle.
Yep.
Basically, we didn't need to see them saying, "Hey, let's do a prank, let's do this." And
they're already setting it up as soon as the episode starts.
So they're already halfway through setting it up, or just wrapping it up, so we can get to the meat of the scene, which is great. It's a great time saver. It moves the story forward, and it actually ties into the fact. Later on, we find out that they've been pranking everybody in Springfield. The problem is that there's nowhere else. Everybody expects their pranks now, so that they've kind of lost their pranking power.
Right.
But just the fact that they start off in the middle of a prank kind of gives you the sense that this is just something that they do regularly.
Right. Well, we have seen them prank people regularly, like 22 short scenes about Springfield. They were spitting over the edge and
it's a great Bart and Milhouse just being kids.
Yeah.
It's very grounded.
It's good stuff. Yeah. It's a good idea, let's say, because I don't know that the scene actually works.
No, it's not funny.
Because first of all, how did Bart get a beer? Maybe I'm overthink that one. He could
sure
just take it out of the fridge.
Yeah, there's a lot in his fridge.
Whatever. But Barney,
Way to get a watermelon.
That's a bigger question.
Physically.
I would like to see an episode where Bart gets a watermelon. That's a prequel to this episode.
Season 28, Bart Gets a Watermelon, starring some guy from YouTube as Mr. Burns.
Nice. Or should I say, excellent? That's how Mr. Burns is going to sound in season 28, because they're going to hire me.
Dan Hadalak is going to do it.
But no, I don't know, Barney's whole thing didn't make any sense. Like, he sees the beer, he's walking along, and he's like, Barney, remember the 12 steps? And he, like, backs up and takes 12 steps to the beer.
It's awful.
And does, like, a flip over and grabs the beer so he misses the watermelon. And it's just like, all right. Yeah. And then he's like, try again next time, boys. And he, like, zips away, like,
not only does he
Roadrunner.
zip away. So, I get the Roadrunner reference in that it was a kind of an Acme Coyote-style trap.
Yeah, definitely.
But Barney stops and goes, as the Roadrunner says to Wile E. Coyote, meep, meep, and then then they do the animation.
Yeah.
So it was really just drawn out, and there wasn't a joke to it. It was just like, and here is a parody, and I am setting it up, and now I am doing it. It was, It was really, like, even if he had just said meep meep and shot off, I wouldn't have liked it, but I don't know why they felt the need to set it up like, as the Roadrunner says to the Coyote in the classic 1947 cartoon. Yeah.
In the Merry Melodies cartoon series.
It was really unnecessary.
It would have kind of been nice if Barney was like, haha, sorry guys, meep meep, but he's just taking a sip of the beer and just walks off at normal speed. That could have been something. But overall, it was just, a setup where Bart and Milhouse have been pranking everybody, but now there's no one left to prank. Like, they can't even prank drunk Barney.
Yeah, they all,
with a free
because even
beer.
Barney knows how to dodge their stuff now. Maybe it would have been funny if the watermelon fell on his head and then he just drank the beer through the watermelon. I don't know.
That could have been good.
Remember Gushers commercials where their heads would turn into like watermelons and stuff?
Deeply disturbing commercials.
Really, like unsettling.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess didn't affect my love for Gushers. It is one of the greatest fruit snacks of all time. But man, a watermelon kid was stuff of nightmares.
I've had very erotic nightmares about those Gusher head kids.
Erotic?
Well, did I say erotic? I mean, meep meep.
And then you leave a Dan-shaped hole in the side of Wii Studio's solid gold wall.
That's right.
I'm actually now doing the rest of the podcast with just a Dan-shaped cloud.
That's slowly dissipating. No one can see what you just did. All right, anyway, back on track. Yeah, so they say we have nobody left to prank anymore, and a turnip truck drives by, and a guy falls off of it, and it's Huell Howser. Now, there were two things going on that I don't think, that you were like, what?
Yeah, because you made note of them, and I said, so? Or I could tell that there's something I'm missing.
So,
First, let me just say this. So obviously I'm missing something with the turnip truck.
Yeah.
I thought it was going to be a Shelbyville reference. I thought he was coming from Shelbyville. Because
that would have been a good tie-in, because Shelbyville has turnip
so that's what I
juice
thought
instead
it
of
was,
lemons.
but apparently I'm wrong.
Right, so it is a common phrase, much like Smooth Move X-Lax. You're learning a lot of common idioms in this podcast,
Either
Jack.
I'm learning them, or you're all just playing a big prank on me. Like every week, you're just like, oh, what can we convince Jack is an actual phrase? I'm going to be at work with my students on Monday and just be like, hey, don't forget to twist the ceiling fan.
You don't know twist the ceiling fan? When you're in an unwinnable situation, you got to twist the ceiling fan.
It's not a phrase.
It is now. We're making it one. But no, he falls off the turnip truck, and that is, I guess, an old-timey colloquial phrase for like I wasn't born yesterday. Like, I didn't fall off the turnip truck is a phrase.
Okay.
So someone who literally
denotes
falls off the turnip truck is a
rube.
dope. A rube.
Yeah.
That's a perfect way of saying it, yeah.
So what is it about falling off the back of a turnip truck that makes you a rube?
I have no idea where the idiom began, but it's like, I didn't fall off the back of the turnip truck. I'm no rube.
I'd like to
See
know.
here.
I want to know the origins.
See here,
of that.
Mr. Pacone.
I want to know the origins of that.
Well, all right, we'll take a break right now. We'll look it up. Oh, it was someone who fell off a turnip truck. That was it. Don't independently search. Take my word for it.
And what's the guy that falls? Harry Hazel?
The guy who falls, his name is Huell Howser. And actually, the only reason that I know who that is, it's a parody of Huell Howser, who was a travelogue guy in California who was very upbeat, optimistic, like always found like the good in all the places he went to, who died 2 years ago, I think. And the only reason that I know who he is as a lifelong New Yorker, because he was a very California-centric personality.
It's because he was your father.
He's because he was my father. I'm broken up about it. Oh, man.
Yeah, you said that really. Hey, he died 2 years ago.
Yeah, I've moved on. Sorry, Dad. Happy Father's Day. In 2 weeks. No, the only reason I know who it is because James Adomian, the comedian, does an impersonation of him on Comedy Bang Bang from time to time. That is very funny.
There you go. So
there you go.
All right, so so that makes sense. So the character
So it's a parody of a real person who's very much like that. Yeah.
So actually, it makes sense that he's a parody character. For a side character or one-off character, I actually liked him pretty much because he had a very straightforward, solid characterization.
Yeah.
I mean, granted, he was a very two-dimensional character. It's hard to not have a two-dimensional, one-off character in just the first act of a Simpsons episode.
Right.
But compared to what we usually see, 2 dimensions is the least of our worries. What I like is that he had a very clear-cut characterization. And what's great about that, he's a very positive guy, basically.
Right, he's gullible too, but
and
positive.
What's great about having something like that is all of the jokes come out of that.
Right.
So they're not the symptomatic of these post-classic Simpsons where the jokes are for joke's sakes or these really stupid random jokes. Like all of the jokes are rooted in the fact that this guy is just very optimistic and kind of a rube. And that's great. It really goes a long way. We're not asking for Shakespeare at this point.
Right.
But these things like these, it just puts that much more, just that little more amount of effort just makes all the difference from the really crappy one. Like, we've covered 30-something episodes now, and there's definitely a range of least worst to worst worst.
Oh, yeah.
And it's things like these that help move an episode into that least worst region.
So, interesting, because I liked the idea of this opening that Bart and Milhouse are pranking people, and they end up pranking this guy who's very gullible, so it makes sense that they could prank him, but he's also this travelogue guy who, it turns out, hurts Springfield by he gives them a bad review on his, I guess, national TV show, and that ends up affecting the whole town. Did you really like this sequence? Did you really think this was funny?
I didn't think it was very funny. But again, I appreciated the
But better
jokes.
than just the random opening they usually have.
Yeah, and I just appreciated his personal jokes. Even though they weren't super funny, I appreciated that they were coming from, I could see where they were coming from. It wasn't just like, why is this in here? Why is this? Yeah, maybe they were a little bit more mediocre. I think this episode falls more on the bland side than the painfully unfunny side.
Definitely agree with you there, but...
all right, here's 2 jokes that I liked. So he's like, can we eat the watermelon, or can we get the watermelon? And Bart Milhouse says, yeah, but it's seedless. And he
wanted to plant the seeds.
Oh, that's right. He wanted to plant the seeds.
Build a tree.
Yeah, he wanted to plant the seeds from the watermelon.
Right.
And they said, no, it's seedless. There are no seeds. And he was like really
upset. He goes, "Oh,
yeah," and like that.
I did like that.
And like it's funny because it wasn't just some like if Homer did that or some other random character. Even like when Milhouse earlier goes, "It's seedless." It's like, what do you care? It's stupid.
Right. That doesn't. Yeah.
Like what do you care that it's seedless, Milhouse? I don't like. But when that guy does it, it makes sense, and I actually like that. And I really liked when he goes. On his TV show, he goes, "I'm giving it my lowest rating ever, 6 out of 10."
Yeah,
and like, that's great.
That was funny, yeah, but I think it was more a reference to the actual person that they were parodying.
Right,
but it works on both levels because you didn't even know who that guy was, and
right.
I only vaguely know who he is. So.
And it's a little less original if it is a parody of an actual character, but it's just even doing a parody of a character. We said this with the Halloween episodes. When you're doing a parody, it gives you a clear line from which to draw
the bone to put the jokes on,
the
or
joke
whatever,
bone.
the meat on the joke bone.
It's the meat on the joke bone.
That's right.
You need a good joke bone to put the meat on.
That's right, Picone with the joke bone. One joke that I want to know what you think about this. They take Huell Howser to the lake where there's the radioactivity sign, and Blinky is in there, and there's kind of two jokes going on. They say, "Oh, it's not radioactivity, it's radioactivity. This is where we do our radio activities." What do you think of that?
It's a funny way of doing that classic, like, oh, that's not that, it's this, it's D-Bart, D.
It wasn't bad.
It's not bad, but then they act out the joke. Something else we've talked about the show is like where you don't need to act it out if you already sold it in words, and they just dance to the twist, like that's the radioactivity, they play the radio, and they're dancing to the twist, and for like 20 seconds, it's just them, and it's just like, ugh.
To me, it was like, oh, that's cute, I see what you did there, but I didn't laugh, like I didn't think it was funny. It was like, oh, radioactivity, I get it.
Yeah.
That's good.
There's probably a better way to do it. Again, like D-Bart D,
right.
It's all in Kelsey Grammer's delivery.
Absolutely.
Oh, and then the reaction, everybody go, oh, yeah.
No one who speaks German can read
exactly.
man.
So, but,
yeah.
You're right. Like the premise of the joke, there's no fault in it. It's just not executed great.
And then the other thing was he's looking in the lake, and Blinky, the three-eyed fish from way back in season 2, season 1? No, season 2.
He was big in season 2. Maybe he was
he may have been around season 1. Well, this is not important. It was season 1 or 2. He swims up, and he's like, "Oh, hello, little fish," and he tries to feed it, and Blinky leaps out, and it's like a creature from the Black Lagoon type monster.
It's just except orange with Blinky's head.
Exactly, and just starts beating him with a log.
Yeah.
Which I laughed. That was funny, but that is not a Simpsons joke. That's like a Family Guy kind of thing. Just like this really wacky thing.
It wasn't a Simpsons joke. We've certainly seen plenty of jokes of that caliber.
That's fair. When I say it's not a Simpsons joke, I'm thinking like classic.
I also laughed out loud because from the genuine surprise of it.
Yes.
And, knowing Blinky and then seeing this. And then not only has it mutated into like this, I'm going to call him Blinky 2.0. It's like apparently the writers think that a three-eyed fish is too dated. It's too early 90s. Now we have
to have a fish monster.
We have to make it to the extreme. I'm surprised he didn't have like a backwards hat and sunglasses.
Yeah.
But
rollerblades.
Not only but I did like the fact that it wasn't just a generic monster. It was a specific old classic.
It was good. Yeah,
monster.
I liked that it was not only that, but it was also a callback to Blinky, this like season 2 thing, not really a character, but like a thing, like showing respect to the legacy of the show. I guess.
Right. And there was a humor to the randomness of him just beating him senselessly with this log.
Yeah,
which again
that's what got me.
And
that's
you
why
say
I
it's a
laughed.
Family Guy joke, and those are usually the best jokes Family Guy does well. Are those just like random chaos type violent, those sudden bursts of violence?
Well, Family Guy's a very like anarchic show.
Yeah, I mean that's a
lot of
much
that kind of
longer
humor.
conversation.
Yeah,
but I agree. I liked it. I found it funny. Did it fit? Not really, especially since this was a pretty grounded opening act with this.
Yes.
These guys are pranking this rube.
Now, that kind of leads, that's a good enough of a segue into a bigger point that I wanted to make about the first act of this episode. This whole Huell Howser kind of thing, he leaves, they chase him out of town, basically. He gets back on a turnip truck, and then they see that he's actually a TV personality, and that affects Springfield negatively. We can talk specifically about like the town hall stuff and the actual end of the act, but I thought it was very interesting that this episode... It's ultimately, I guess, an issues episode, like a message episode about gay marriage, and they wanted to have a character come out.
They've done like legalizing weed and
they've done gay episodes before, like the John Waters episode. Obviously, was a big one.
Immigration episode.
Actually, the John Waters episode is a perfect parallel to what I want to talk about because that is an episode. It's Homer's Phobia from season 8. You It's a classic, excellent episode. That one starts out where Homer meets this guy and becomes friends with him, and then realizes he's gay, and then he's torn because he's against gay marriage and he's against gays as a going concern. But he likes this one guy, and he's trying to reconcile his feelings with that, and ultimately he does when John saves him from killer reindeer. It's a better episode than I'm making it sound like. You've all probably seen it. But this episode doesn't take nearly as direct a path. Like, the first act, you have this weird Bart plot, and then out of nowhere, the gay marriage thing comes in.
Yeah.
And then it's about Homer making money off gay marriage, and then the last act is all about Marge and Patty. And there's no setup at all for Patty. She just appears at the end of the second act and just is like, I gotta get gay married.
That's a good point. I didn't even think about that. The fact that this is such a strong episode of Marge and Patty, you'd think they would at least foreshadow it a little earlier.
The only foreshadowing is that Marge is for gay marriage in the beginning, but then when it's close to home, like you said in the recap, then she's kind of reassessing it.
Like, I didn't think it didn't feel shoehorned in when she suddenly did appear to me. Yeah. And, I was like, yeah, this makes sense. He's marrying all these gay people, and now she shows up. But you're right. It would have been a lot stronger even if she was in the town hall meeting with Marge, something, even if it didn't.
Just anything. Just like, could we see Patty before the very end of the episode?
You're right. I don't know. I don't know why that didn't even occur to me. But now that you say it, yeah, that makes 100% sense.
Because I mean, I liked the idea of this Bart opening, and you could even still have done that. I guess if Patty was at the town hall meeting, maybe if she had been the one to suggest the gay marriage,
or she introduces Veronica. She's like, "This is my friend Veronica," and Marge's like, "Oh, nice to meet you. So, by the way, have you met any men lately?"
Just the slightest of breadcrumbs, just to set up where this episode is going.
I'm trying to think. So this entire premise has been done several times before, even in the classic episodes, where Springfield needs to either it comes into some money and they have a town hall meeting, like, what can we do? Something big.
Yeah, like the monorail episode classic.
Or Springfield looks
Legalize
really
gambling.
bad. We need to make ourselves look better. Let's have a film festival.
Yeah.
And that opens the same way.
It's like they do one of these every season.
Yeah, it's like a weird non sequitur first act leads into the town hall meeting. Town hall meeting leads into the plot. And I don't think those usually have as much foreshadowing. Like, I don't think there's, in the beginning of that town hall, of the film festival one, there's somebody saying, it's like, oh man, I really love movies, or they're watching The Critic before this town hall meeting. So
that's a good point.
The Simpsons is, we're surprised. We were surprised in a couple of episodes when we saw foreshadowing, just because it's not something the classic episodes are really famous for. They're amazing for other reasons, but. You're right, because this is that's a much broader episode. It's a critic crossover with the film festival.
Yeah.
It's a monorail episode that's a spoof of the Music Man. Like, this is a Marge and Patty character episode. That's why, even though this is a big event issue episode, Patty comes out, the Simpsons is making their stand on homosexual rights. It really comes to story-wise, it's a small episode. It's Patty and Marge. It's their story.
Right, it's a character episode about issues.
Yeah, and a character episode, I think, does benefit more from these little breadcrumbs, like you called them, sprinkled out earlier. Because it builds the world better, so now you know where these characters are coming from.
It does that for sure, but also it sets up the conflict more. Like, we got a little bit of Marge being like, I'm for gay marriage. Like, Reverend Lovejoy, what are you doing? Like, this is a good thing. And then she's not so high on it anymore when it's her sister saying, I want to get gay married. Just one little thing in the first act, I think, would have made it so much better.
100% right. So, yeah, no, that's a good point.
But I glossed over a few things I want to go back to in the first act. Namely, Homer... when they're watching the Huell Howser kind of takedown of Springfield, Homer says, oh no, this is going to affect tourism in Springfield. I'm not going to sell any of my maps to the stars' houses.
Yeah.
And he holds it up, and the camera shows it, and it's there for an excessively long time.
Very long time, yeah.
And then Homer says, have you read all of them yet? Okay, good. And then it cuts to the next thing. What did you think of that?
Okay, so at first, even before he said, have you read all of them, I was like, wow, this is way too long. I mean, The Simpsons is famous for its freeze frame gags, where you have to pause it on your VCR to actually stop and read it. And it's funnier that way. You have to work for it a little bit.
Yep.
I don't mind when they keep on it a little longer, like they do with the church signs and stuff like that.
Right.
But this was just unnecessarily long.
And then they make a joke about it.
But then they make a joke about it, and that did redeem it for me. I'm not sure. I don't know if I thought it was hilarious. I think it's something... if you're doing 600 episodes and a lot of them have these freeze frame gags, I guess it's okay at one point for you to just make a meta reference and go, hey, this is something we do. Did you get them all?
I guess.
I wonder if it was in the classic era episode, if I would have gone easier on it and go, oh, that was brilliant. I feel like I'm primed to hate that joke, but it's fun. I don't know. I didn't laugh.
I'm not against like meta humor. I'm not against meta humor. I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know what this is. I'm trying not to turn it into a character or a bit. We're trying to like stay on topic today.
I'm Sassy KO. I'm KO.
I never met a humor I didn't like.
Stopping it right now. That's stupid.
Is it time for me to come back? No. All right, no, I don't. I'm too hot to deal with this.
It's too hot.
Okay. No, I'm not against meta humor in general, but I don't know. There was something about like the knowing. Maybe it was even just Dan Castellaneta's delivery.
Yeah.
Like, have you read all of them yet? Okay, good.
It was a little too smug.
It was just like, we're all in on the joke here. Let's move on.
Yeah, and I think it just was. We were already primed to hate it because it was on so long.
Yeah.
Maybe if it was on a little bit shorter and like where you didn't actually have a chance to read them all, but they give you the audio joke. A little early, maybe that would have helped. I don't know. There was something a little off about it, but the idea of it, I actually liked.
Yeah, and I actually liked. I liked pretty much everything that was on the map. I don't know if you read it closely. It was like that guy's house, Lenny, Carl, red car house or something.
Yeah,
that was it was okay.
There was some of those, like it said, Isabella Rossellini. Like there's a
that's
real
the one I was
going to
bring up. That's the one I wanted to bring up because. Well, what did you think of Isabella Rossellini being on there? An actual celebrity house. I feel
like it's just like one of those post-classic Simpsons jokes that is just like too smart. Like they're just like, see, we put this real one in there.
Here's the thing, though. Isabella Rossellini has been on the show, and she played a character. I don't remember what her name was. It was
she was in a post-classic episode. Yeah.
It was like 11 or 12.
Coming at Millhouse.
Yeah. So she was on the show, but she didn't play herself. Meanwhile, they've had a good amount of characters. Of celebrities who have been on the show who actually live in Springfield. Like, why not make it Gerald Ford or something like that? Like, I mean, he didn't actually do it.
You're
voice
right.
himself.
That would have made it better because, again, the problem with Isabella Rossellini, I think, was just like, it was again more of that, like, joke for joke's sake. Like, here's something wacky.
Right. It's like, could you believe Isabella Rossellini living here?
Whereas, you're right. If it was somebody, a celebrity who has been established to live there, like Fred Ford or Ron Howard or someone.
Right.
Yeah, no, you're right. That would have made it a lot better.
It would have been just slightly stronger.
Why don't you write for The Simpsons?
You know what? I'm going to do it.
Oh, is that easy?
I'll see you later. I'm going to leave the podcast.
No. Please turn on the air conditioner when you leave.
Let me open the door before I go. Jack, something's wrong with your door.
Give me another shot at that.
All right, let me open the door before I get out of here. This door's stuck. I can't open the door, Jack.
I'm trying to think of how I do the open door. It's just a closed door backwards? That's the close. All right. Give me one third time's a charm.
All right, let me get out of here, Jack. I'm gonna open this door. Can you help me out? Someone shot your door and then it melted.
I can't do it today. I can't do it. My door's off.
Whew. All right, it's hot in here.
That was all. What the? I can't believe I botched something so simple. Jack, do an open door sound. I can't. I'm sorry.
Now you're talking to yourself.
I had 3 tries. I'm just losing it. It's hot in here. The air conditioning in Wii Studios is not on.
Things are gonna get crazy soon. Hemus is gonna come back.
Hemus has died of heat stroke.
I'm in the corridor.
All of our characters are just dead around us, like a Gone with the Wind scene.
I was Hemus. That's his soul closing the door to life. Okay.
The town hall scene, there's some Mo jokes that were just awful, and I don't even remember the specifics of them.
All I wrote was Mo Sideshow Mail Exchange, barf.
Awful. Both times, because they do it in the beginning and then they come back to it.
It was, the first one was like, I something about martinis, and Sideshow Mail is like, it's vermouth and gin, and Mo is like, what's that, a martini? It was just like, what? What is this? It was like a vaudeville bit that didn't make any sense.
Yeah, and again, it was too silly for silly, like they were really going with that random crazy humor where, they really just like doing these silly absurdist things that just don't make sense, and they think like Adult Swim type humor that they think that's what makes it funny, is that it doesn't make sense, like Mo just talking about a martini and then immediately forgetting what a martini is, and it's just it doesn't belong there.
It didn't work at all. I did actually like when I don't remember exactly what the setup was, but Nelson is like, then I can beat up kids for being gay or something, and he like grabs Martin, and Martin's like, I'm not gay, I'm nothing yet.
Yeah, I like that.
That was funny.
I'm nothing yet. That was an interesting joke. I appreciated that. It was good for Martin.
Yeah.
In general, like I said, they've done this plot before, where Springfield
The town
comes
hall.
up with in the
Yeah.
town hall. I think if you're going to do a big Simpsons issue episode about gay marriage, this is actually a really good way to do it, where basically it's very cynical, and the mayor and
they do it for
Springfield,
profit
they
and for
really
what they can
and
gain.
They openly. The next scene is like a commercial for marrying in Springfield,
Right.
And they really just nakedly are in it for the profit.
It has nothing to do with
Right.
like the rights aspect of it, about like
Yeah.
people should be able to marry whoever they want. It's just totally like, hey, we can make money off
Right.
this. This could help all of us.
And
out.
while the writers of the show are certainly have like this righteous tinge to them.
Make your
because-
point, but then I have something to say about that.
Okay.
So continue.
So they do have this righteous tinge to them. They do kind of do these things, and it's good that they do, because they were a very big, powerful show, or that's definitely were in 2005. They're about as big as you can get pop culture wise for a show now. Everything's a lot more niche, so shows doesn't really have as much dominance as it could have.
Right.
But it is using its powers for good a lot of the time with these very progressive issues. The show has, in general, been a very progressive show.
Definitely.
So that's great. But if they had taken those bleeding heart sentiments and translated them directly onto the page, it would be kind of cringe. You don't want to. I'm a very progressive guy, but I don't want to see.
You don't want to see them preachy,
Yeah, I don't want to see it preachy, and
which they do occasionally with Lisa, and that's why they kind of.
No, the show is not
ruined
great
her
at
character.
it. But in this case, they did a very good job by making Springfield very cynical in Springfield about the money. There's something else I want to talk about later in the show where they do the opposite, and I don't like it. But in general, I like this premise a lot.
So it's interesting that you say the writer's proclivities, I guess, towards more liberal ideas, because I was skimming the Wikipedia page right before we started recording, and apparently Al Jean went on record as saying, like, this episode, they're not taking a stance on gay marriage. They just wanted to offer up what the different perspectives in Springfield would be. Like, obviously, the mayor would think of it as, what can he get out of it? What can the town get out of it? Reverend Lovejoy would be against it, blah, blah, blah. Homer would see it for a quick buck, which is smart. I think that's the right way to do it. I don't know that the episode is quite as not taking a side. There's a word that I can't find that means not taking a side. Right. Apathetic, I guess, is what it was. I think this episode does come out in favor of gay marriage. I think Homer's Phobia even did a better job of being at least tolerance for gays.
I was going to talk about this at the end of the episode, just because we'd have more of context. But no, we might as well just get it out of the way.
Sure.
So yeah, I agree that the show. I think the show is showing that it is pro-gay for the most part. I don't think they did it in the best way. And again, this is 2005, and even since then, even in 10 years, gay rights have come a long way, and everybody's attitudes towards them. It used to, the Democrats, who were technically the liberal side, the left wing, which they're not, but their stance used to be, we don't want to ban gay marriage. We're not for it, but we don't want to ban it. And now, obviously, you have them coming out and saying, "Oh no, we're for gay marriage." It's like little things like that where
I guess that's the way you have to stealth it into the Fox network, which is obviously notoriously
but it's not just the Fox network; it's everywhere.
Yeah, no, I understand.
But,
2005 was 11 years ago. It's a different time.
So yeah, I agree that this was probably not as apathetic as they claim, that it was more on the side. But it wasn't enough. And again, maybe it's because 2005 we were more conservative then with this issue. But I don't know. I do think it still treated the issue a little insensitive, a little too insensitive in some ways. Where, I don't know, some of the gay jokes were most of them were fine. They were just, again, they were just kind of poking fun at, like, here's this thing, and we're making fun of it, just like they would make fun of anything.
Yeah.
And we've said before, obviously we're pretty progressive minded when it comes to some of these things, and we've talked about how we don't like to see sexism and racism and homophobia on the show.
Yep.
But there's certain gay jokes and even racial jokes and other types of jokes where, if they're done in the right context, we find them funny as a joke.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So I think there were some gay jokes in this episode that weren't that, where they were kind of mean-spirited or just ignorant maybe. But that's one thing. The biggest thing I want to talk about is, so I didn't know this thing about Al Jean, and you said it, that he wanted to get everybody's perspectives. So nobody has their minds quite changed. Like Reverend Lovejoy doesn't suddenly realize, oh, I should open the church up. And that's fine, because,
that's true.
Even though it's The Simpsons and I would like to see these characters I like think like I do, it makes sense that Reverend Lovejoy wouldn't change his mind.
I mean, arguably Marge does, but Marge was kind of for it and then slightly against it and then for her sister.
That's a different issue we'll get into. But Marge does change her mind. Here's who doesn't change his mind, and here's what I really wanted to talk about and what bothers me. Homer. So Homer says he's only in it for the money, just like Springfield was, and he even sees all these gay couples as walking $100 bills, which was whatever. It was an okay visual, and he's basically just marrying them for money, and in his own stupid way, he's actually very progressive, and he's just like I'm okay with everybody, but it's still hinted at or even explicitly said that he is not okay with it, or so maybe not him personally, but all right, there's one really specific moment that I didn't like. So he's praying to God before Patty's thing. He goes, "Dear God, please help me get this marriage right and let me do it right, even though you're against it." So what is basically Homer thinks that it's against nature, it's against God.
So Homer thinks it's against God, but he's still doing it.
He has nothing against gays. He's okay with gays, but he still thinks that it's inherently wrong.
Right.
And that is a dangerous belief to have. Again,
that's true.
For characters, if that's the way the character thinks, I'm 100%. That's dangerous thinking to me. I think that's wrong. But if that's the way they think, if that's the way Lovejoy thinks, okay. But Homer, our protagonist on a show, I think it's kind of, especially at the end of Homer's Phobia, where he seemed
That's what I was just going to bring up.
Yeah, he was, I mean, the show doesn't have much continuity here.
The whole episode was there to get Homer to a place of accepting gay.
But in this case, maybe he does still accept them, and he really doesn't. He won't not like you because of it.
Right.
But it never. I was waiting for this moment where Homer learns a lesson too, and he goes, "Oh, you know what? Even though I'm in this for the money, now I see that everybody has the right to love whoever they want."
That's funny. I didn't see it that way.
But he never changes his mind. It leaves with him basically still thinking that God thinks being gay is wrong.
Yeah, I didn't pick up on that. I agree with you. I didn't really see it that way. I actually liked the fact that Homer was kind of, well, I guess he was sort of loosely against it in the sense that, like you said, he said, "Oh God, I know you're not cool with it."
I don't mind that he was.
But I like that he was okay. He was fine with gay marriage because, hey, he could make a couple of bucks off it, and he wasn't being jerk-ass Homer. He was being like kind of a little bit sleazy Homer. Like
that's why I think it's really dangerous. Is that they basically made him a good guy that just has his, in my opinion, a very wrong belief like this. And it's okay if he's just being a shuckster and making the money off of this, but still in his heart thinks that it's okay. But he's just like, he's really more in it for the money.
Yeah.
Like there's a character on Justified played by Walton Goggins. He's God, what's his name? Boyd Crowder.
Right.
And the first season, he runs like a white supremacist group, and he's always preaching these horrible things about how the Jews come from the mud people. But you can tell that he doesn't believe
Is that a commonly believed thing
with white supremacists. Yeah.
Jeez.
So, but you could tell that he doesn't believe it. He's just saying it and pretending to believe it because it gets him power and money and influence.
Right.
So, whereas Homer, it's the same thing with Homer, where he's really just in it for the money, except he does kind of believe that it's inherently wrong. I mean, think about it in terms of, we've talked about how the gay rights are where race issues were basically 10, 20 years ago, like post-civil rights. Imagine if, like, Homer's like, "I'm cool with you, Carl and Lou, the cop. You're black, and I have no problem with that. But in my heart,
but the Lord might.
But yeah, in my heart, I think that the whites are the superior race. Like I think that whites.
Yeah, that would be problematic if Homer Simpson said that.
But that's basically what he's saying here: is that I'm okay with my gay friends, and I'm okay with homosexuality in general. But being straight is
the default setting.
Is how God wants it to be.
Right.
And of course, there's contradictions here. At one point, he doesn't know what straight means, which
was a terrible scene.
Yeah,
I thought
his stupidity was a huge issue in this episode. He was just too stupid. Like to not know what straight is. And there's another issue where he imagines himself making out with himself, which isn't gay, but he is picturing two men making out with themselves.
Let's talk about that later.
Yeah,
we'll get to that later.
So there's contradictory elements here.
Yeah.
But he still says, "Dear God, I know you don't think this is okay," and they never resolve that. And I do think I don't know, that really bugged me.
Yeah, it's interesting because that didn't even click with me. But now that you're pointing it out like that, I agree with you.
Because it's subtle. It is
really, and that's what makes it dangerous.
Exactly. If he was like really just out and out gay, you could almost say, "Oh, maybe they're trying to say something. Maybe it's because he's an idiot or a jerk ass." But This is no. Homer's right. He's in the right. He's a good, decent guy. But by the way, it's still wrong to be gay. Like that. It's they're not saying
that's the
but it's
implication.
it's there. It's not refuted at the very least. Which is dangerous.
Man, this podcast got really heavy. Should we let in some bus stop folk just to kind of let the air out a little bit?
Even just to open the window.
Hey, oh my God, it's so hot in here. I'm going back out to the bus stop over there. Am I John Travolta or Joe Pesci? I don't even know.
I thought you were my parents.
Hey, Jackie boy.
Then it's settled. We'll legalize gay money. Gay marriage.
I propose we also legalize gay funerals, starting with this guy.
I'm not gay. I'm nothing yet.
So they legalized gay marriage in Springfield, and I think it was the beginning of the second act comes in with this commercial that they've made with all different gay couples coming to Springfield and getting married and showing Springfield as this like land of gay pride and positivity. And it's all set to a parody of the song Deo by, is that Harry Belafonte? I think it is. And it's Gayo, It's Okay-o.
Yeah.
I didn't love it. It was
You see, gay rhymes with day.
Right. It was just so like you didn't need a musical parody on top of this kind of over the top commercial.
Yeah. At first I was like, what's the point? But then I realized what it was doing and that it was showing that Springfield was attracting all these homosexual couples from, I guess, outside of the city was their point. I mean, I don't even know if any of the gays Homer marries are from out of towners. They seem to, because he says at one point he runs out, so we're presuming that he was only marrying Springfield gays. But
it's a big gay
where
population.
was Smithers in this episode?
Oh, great point. I didn't even think of that. Yeah. That's interesting that in this
One
very
of the
prominent
most prominent
gay episode, yeah.
Or Mr. Largo, who I guess is the other gay character in Springfield.
Was Smithers out at this point? I don't know. Was he ever formally outed on the show?
I feel like I don't know if he was formally outed. I feel like at this point now
they've just accepted it as the gay character.
But I don't know by season 16. I have no idea. Yeah. I'm trying to think of when the three gays of the Condor. That's their other.
That was
their
before
gay
this episode.
Trilogy of episodes.
Yeah.
This Homer's Phobia. I'm pretty. Smithers is in that one. He has a couple of funny scenes, I think.
Okay.
So I don't know.
Well, maybe they used up all their gay Smithers jokes in that episode. I don't know. I've not seen that one.
Or maybe he just had nobody to get married to. He still loved Burns, so
that's a shame. Mr. Burns not in this episode either. I would have liked to see Mr. Burns come in as like presumably against gay marriage, or maybe he's weirdly for
Flanders?
Yeah, where was Flanders?
Lovejoy was pretty much the only mouthpiece.
You know what? It's interesting that Al Jean said, let's see what the different characters' views on gay marriage are. There's not that many views actually offered.
Lovejoy,
it's Homer, Marge, Lovejoy, and kind
Mayor,
of Mayor, Quimby. Yeah, that's pretty much it. And Patty.
And Nelson.
And Martin. All right, there's a few.
So Lovejoy does close the church. He won't allow them to marry in the church. You have something before that?
No, well, I have something related to that. I just wanted to say I liked the satire kind of when Marge is he says it's in the Bible, like you can't do that, and Marge says, what book of the Bible? And he's like, the Bible, the one, and Marge is like, but what about also, and she starts coming up with valid reasons that gays should be allowed to marry, and instead of listening, Lovejoy just starts ringing the church bells, and I thought that was very very fitting. It's what a lot of people do, like just rally back to the church instead of actually listening to the arguments.
It's like sticking your fingers and going la 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 la, except when you have the power of an actual church bell. No, it was a great gag.
Yeah, that was good. That was it.
That's what I was going to say before you
sorry.
interrupted my.
Well,
you interrupted my point with my point.
So, I really wanted to make that point.
Well, you got to make it.
Damn right I did.
So we just talked about Homer's stance on homosexuality. So this might seem a little redundant, but what before he realizes that he can make money off of it, was he one of the anti-gay Springfielders? Because
they showed him really quickly with an anti-gay sign.
Yeah, he had a protest sign, and he throws it out, and once he realizes he can make money. Yeah. But I was like, wait, was he protesting? Did I miss something? Because sometimes I miss things when I'm jotting down notes.
That was the only thing I saw. That was like the first appearance of Homer as just after the gay stuff.
It seemed like an afterthought, or like there's some deleted scene where he was leading, like with the immigration episode with Apu, where he was leading the anti-immigration, because it makes his turnaround that much stronger when he becomes pro. Yeah. So it was weird. I don't know, when I saw him throw out the sign, I was like, wait, when was Homer against gay marriage?
Yeah, they just kind of glossed over it. It was weird. This episode could have been tightened.
I was going to say, or if not tight, I feel like there's so much they left out.
Drastically rewritten, actually.
Like Flanders and all these other POVs and other stuff. I almost wonder if it would have made a better two-parter or a movie or something.
What if you had like more of a debate in the town hall of like, even if Lisa brought up the gay marriage thing and Patty was like, was there and was like a little supportive of it, like, I've heard other towns have done it and it's been blah, blah, blah. And Flanders comes up and he's like, no, it's this, and Patty's like hesitant, doesn't want want to say that she's gay. Something.
Or Selma says something and Patty's not okay with it. Like Patty.
Yeah. Well, even Marge could say something and Patty's not okay with it. That was the dynamic in the episode.
No, but what would have been better is if they just had a ridiculous Mo and Sideshow Mel exchange. That's a better use of their time.
You're right. You're so right. They could be talking about martinis.
Literally have everybody in the town talking about, expressing their points of views in a perfect,
Actually, there's a big point I wanted to make, and since you just said they have everybody in the town, I'll make it now. It's interesting because on the show, I don't know if I'm blowing your mind, but The Simpsons is a cartoon. That was the sound of Jack's mind being blown all over the studio. Collect your mind. Come back. Boo! There we go. What was that? That sounded like John Travolta again. But with Brad Pitt.
That's the Taron Killam's Brad Pitt.
Yeah. Boo! Now we're just doing it, all right? No, my point is, Simpsons is an animated show, and Patty, who ultimately is a central character in the theme of the episode, not so much in the story, at least in the beginning, she's voiced by Julie Kavner, who is a cast member on the show. So it's interesting that if this was a live-action show, and Patty as a side character was played by a special guest, you would think they would do it differently and have her be more central to the episode, because when you bring a guest character on, you want to get the most mileage out of them that you can.
Oh, I never thought
Whereas opposed to here, they can just bring Patty in late in the game, and it doesn't matter as far as the production of the episode, I guess.
Yeah, you're right.
So I thought if this had been a live-action show, it would have been different. I just thought...
That's a good point.
That's something that only The Simpsons
Yeah, you're
can
right.
do.
There are some weird... there's got to be some weird things that happen, even subconsciously or unconsciously, when you have the same voice actors doing most of the cast. You're right. That's a great point. I remember when I was little, and there would be an episode with no Flanders. I would be like, oh man, I feel bad for the guy who does Flanders' voice. He didn't get much to do.
Right.
Not realizing that it was probably a Burns episode, and Harry Shearer was still. Yeah. That's a good point. So Homer decides, he sees this get rich quick scheme, and he decides that he's going to become a minister. And he gets ordained online, which is a thing you can do, and it's very easy to do. You don't even have to take a test. You pretty much just have to pay to do it.
Right.
And it's kind of ridiculous. And Simpsons does a nice little joke where Homer goes, okay, let me put in my name, Homer Simpson, and then it just automatically...
he's a minister.
He's ordained. I like that. It's short and sweet, which is a great way to do it.
And he prints out the priest collar and then just wraps it around his neck, which was fine. It was a nice little button.
Yeah, that was a well-done little scene.
Yeah. So Homer starts marrying people. He's marrying gay couples, and then he just starts marrying whoever. It was a quick scene. It was very, very brief, where he's marrying Cletus and Brandine.
Yeah.
And he's like, wait a minute, are you two brother and sister? And they're like, we're lots of things to each other. I thought that was too easy. The hillbilly joke of incest.
I do like the line
done
where
forever.
lots of things. I kind of like that.
Yeah, I guess.
It's not quite a make you think, but it's a step that closer.
One of those classic Simpsons make you think.
Actually, I do want to talk about that. It ties into the conversation we just had. This is why I wanted to bring it up at the end of the episode. But that
we're doing everything out of order today.
So that scene, and then
the
post-credit scene, which is just lots of weird couples in line getting married.
Yeah,
and it's all It's all characters. It's all people, not gay marriages, but not normal marriages.
Non-traditional marriages.
Non-traditional. I couldn't think of the phrase.
Yeah.
And actually, there is like a somewhat of a subplot here, which I really wish was cut, where even Homer goes on Nightline and he marries Lovejoy in the Bible. Basically, Homer, to make money once he runs out of gays to marry, is marrying anything. And that's, again, one of those dangerous sentiments to have, because one of the strongest arguments anti-gay activists have...
That's a great point, actually.
Is
Look at us making good points today.
So one of the biggest anti-gay things in the ammunition of anti-gay activists is they say, if you start allowing two men or two women to marry,
the classic slippery slope.
Now, what's this? If you're constitutionally allowed to marry another man, what's to stop you from marrying your dog or a chair or a ceiling fan?
Well, some chairs are very attractive.
Yeah, and that's a really dangerous thing, because obviously there's a difference between marrying another intelligent being who loves you back and you love them, than marrying your dog. As much as great and lovable as dogs can be, or as plush and comfortable and sensuous as chairs can be. But
what if you get one of those smart chairs that it massages you? That's a loving relationship.
Or that computer from that Bad Religion turn of the century song. I love my computer. So she had a sexy voice.
I love my computer. Not one of Bad Religion's best songs.
Yeah, Greg Graffett, he's got a PhD. He's got all
Yes.
these great subversive songs
Bad
about the
Religion,
government.
a fantastic band.
But I love my computer.
Not their best.
Touch me. Like,
Click on me.
no, so it's it's a really
you're
it's a
right,
slippery
yeah.
it's a slippery slope for the Simpsons writers because
Yes.
what you're doing is basically you're tying this sentiment in where it's like, you know what. The thing is, Springfield legalizes gay marriage, and you're subconsciously saying, I guess that's okay, but you're not taking a stance on it, supposedly.
Right. Well, Homer, your protagonist is saying, "Oh, I'm cool with gay marriage, and I'm cool with marrying a guy to a mast
same
from
thing.
a ship."
It's
and
the
that's
same
the
thing.
same thing. Which, that's
And
a dangerous thing.
Yeah, and if you have like a character like Lovejoy who believes that, okay, I'm not going to criticize a character for having different beliefs as me,
Yeah.
but when it's your lead character, Homer, and he's the face of the show, and the show is a very powerful pop culture show, that's something with great power comes great responsibility.
Whoa, are we Web of Spider-Maning right now?
Web of Spider-Man.
Oh, man.
And and The Simpsons does have a great, or at least especially in 2005, it does, people listen to what it has to say, and when you're saying stuff like that. And I guess it's weird for me to say because I just don't believe it's not my belief so I can't really just say do what I believe. And again it's the same thing with the other thing I was talking about with Homer is there's never a point at the end of the episode where it resolves where he goes now
Right.
I realize that loving another person of the same sex is different from and if in fact the show ends with him just marrying as a joke marrying these other things and they don't quite say that it's the same as but they're they're not saying it.
Right, you're exactly right, and I did not like that extra button scene during the credits because I thought it didn't add anything. It was why they very rarely do that where they put another scene in during the credits. It was was it that funny that we had to get in the sea captain marrying a wooden woman?
Yeah.
Do we need to squeeze that in wherever we can?
And what? And
but you're right, it's also damaging because it continues that
it's
through
the
line of
last
Homer.
point the show is making. So is The Simpsons saying, hey, we're taking, even though they're not taking a stance, they're saying, hey, we're okay with gay marriage and we're okay with gay rights. And it's also the same thing as the sea captain marrying this fake mermaid and comic book guy marrying a cardboard cutout of Elvira. It's the same thing.
Right. It's the same thing. Same thing.
No, I was really, really disappointed with that.
Agreed. Good point. You quickly mentioned this when you said that Homer married Lovejoy to the Bible. When they were on, I don't know if they said it was Smartline, but they used to call it Smartline back in the day, like Kent Brockman's late night
it was
chat show.
Smartline.
It was? Okay.
They even had the music.
Oh, good. And I was in a state of shock over how boring and bland this episode was, so I didn't see it. But they had a scene where Homer is debating with Lovejoy, and it was just terrible.
Yeah.
There
Homer.
was nothing funny. Yeah, it was complete jerk ass Homer. Where he's like, if you like the Bible so much, why do you marry it? You married to the Bible. You married now. That's my new jerk ass Homer voice.
It's pretty good.
It's pretty good.
It's apt.
Yeah, it was not good. But I did like actually on the same Smartline bit. Kent Brockman, right before they introduce it, he makes a reference to the whatchamacarcus sandwich, and then after Homer and Lovejoy are debating, Krusty comes on and he's like, "I use non-diseased parts from diseased animals. Everybody does it." I thought that was funny.
Yeah, whatchamacarcus is just a great
is-
Simpsons name, great Krusty
Yeah, that
Burger
was
name.
very funny.
So Homer. The big problem with Homer in this episode was he was jerk ass. He was also, we said this, he's just really stupid. Throughout the episode, he's just so it's just stupid to the point where it's not funny, which is a problem some post-classic episodes have and some don't, and this one did.
Yeah, I mean, overall, I did like the idea of, hey, I'm not taking a stance on gay marriage, but I can make money off of it. Good. That was a good Homer beat.
Yeah.
But yeah, now that we've talked about it so in depth, I don't like where it ended up, and I didn't like the jerk ass aspects.
Jerk ass on the nightline, or stupid Homer not knowing
what the straight was. I mean, we didn't even talk about that scene, and I don't want to because it was dreadful.
All right, so let's talk about. This is a good point. Let's talk about two things. Let's talk about Patty's coming out scene and Marge's reaction in general.
So I just want to say I did not like when Patty comes out. I like that part. That was fine. I didn't like it. She should be loving a man. I don't know what this is. Loving a man. Cut that. That was garbage. Let's get back on topic. It's very hot in here. I didn't like when Patty comes out and everyone's just like, oh, it was so obvious the whole time. Especially when Marge has the flashback and like you see Patty like dressing up as a man and like Marge goes into Sleepless in Seattle and Patty's making out with a woman. I didn't like that because
it doesn't fit the Patty we've known for years. We've always known Patty, or not always, but for a good while now, we've known that Patty was probably gay,
right?
Or even
it's been danced around.
Sometimes they would come out and really say it. But it was better when because homosexuality or sexuality is a spectrum. There is no just gay or straight. You know, there's a spectrum of very, very straight and very, very gay, and all of us fall somewhere between those 2 points.
Yeah.
And I always liked Patty being more of, it's more true to life because there are a lot of people who are definitely gay, but there's somewhere closer on that spectrum. Like, she clearly has a crush on Richard Dean Anderson, who plays MacGyver.
Right, MacGyver.
And, that's okay. That doesn't make her not gay, and it doesn't make her...
I always thought she appreciated MacGyver because of the great storytelling.
Or the theme song.
Yeah.
Do-do-do-do. No, we can't sing it. But...
that's all we're legally clear to do.
No, but, just because she has a crush on Richard Dean Anderson doesn't make her not gay, doesn't make her bisexual. It's everybody has their... Like, I'm attracted to Richard Dean Anderson. I'm not gay.
I mean,
I
who
would
isn't?
fuck the shit out of Richard Dean Anderson, but I'm not gay.
Let's save that for our erotica fan fiction about MacGyver.
MacGayver.
Nailed it. Nailed it. MacGayver.
So I always liked that especially when you're closeted, and it's not super apparent that you're gay, you'd probably fall somewhere else on the spectrum than very gay. So I always liked that. It gave it more. It made it more true to life that she was somewhere on the spectrum as opposed to this cartoonish, definitely gay.
Right. That's what I did not like about the whole flashback thing.
Because that kind of just was like, no, she's always clearly been a lesbian. You just
now it's
didn't
like,
see
look at how stupid Marge is, you stupid, dumb, stupid.
I mean, I get what it was trying to do in that because Marge was so close to her that she was ignoring the signs.
Right.
And that's okay. I like that. But it did kind of hinted that she was gayer than they had previously made her out to be.
I guess they could have done it a few ways where Patty comes out as gay and everyone's shocked. Patty comes out as gay and nobody's shocked. But instead they did a thing where Patty comes out as gay and not only is nobody shocked, but like everyone's just like rubbing it in the face.
I did love when Homer goes, he has another bomb. I love beer.
That was pretty
It was a really great delivery.
Yeah. But no, you also brought up Marge's whole...
That's what I brought up.
Just how Marge figured into the plot of this episode. I really liked it. I liked the idea of her supporting gay marriage in the abstract and even defending it against Reverend Lovejoy. But then when it's so close to home, she doesn't know. She's not necessarily against it. She didn't like the idea of Perry? Not turning into a character. She didn't like the idea of Patty marrying another woman.
Yeah.
But she wasn't like all of a sudden anti-gay.
It didn't turn her against,
Right. It just introduced this like doubt into her that I liked. I thought that was a strong way to do the episode.
It really fits Marge's character. Marge is a traditional housewife.
Right.
She's fairly conservative, not politically conservative. She's conservative in a traditional way.
Yeah.
She's American apple pie, stuff like that.
Right.
And she also has a really, really big heart. She's a really kind, loving person.
Yeah.
And that's why she would tend to be pro-gay, is because she's a loving person and she sees the best in everybody and she wants everybody to express themselves. But because she comes from this traditional background, once it hits home and she has a gay sister and it's in the family, that doesn't fit my very tiny worldview.
Exactly. It was a good satire kind of thing of like not in my backyard type stuff of people who are like, yeah, I'm okay with this, but not here.
Yeah. It's like, you could be pro-life all you want, but as soon as you knock up your 16-year-old girlfriend,
then things change.
Driving to the clinic.
Just like Marge did.
Actually, and what this reminded me of was it just shows that we're probably gonna, because of the really weird way they treated Homer's bent with homosexuality, I feel like I'm going to give it a low integrity score. But it really did nail Marge's integrity throughout this episode, and it was very similar to the episode where she confronts Lisa's atheism when they find the angel skeleton,
right?
Where she is a very loving person. She's okay with other people's beliefs, but no, Lisa, you can't be an atheist.
Yeah.
And then she kind of became what's the word? Not vindictive, but when Lisa decides to like hold her and turn her. She kind of rubs it in a little bit.
Yeah.
And it's the same way where when she finds out Veronica's a man, she's kind of like happy about it. She's not even taking into the fact that Patty's going to be heartbroken.
So that's what I wanted to talk about. I didn't like that aspect because, like exactly like you said, she sees Veronica in the bathroom and realizes, oh my God, that's actually a man. And her first reaction is, yes, like my sister's not marrying another woman. That should not have been her first reaction.
I disagree. I like that. I mean, I don't think it's a very, very commendable characteristic, and it's kind of, it's kind of a jerk thing to feel, but it is a natural gut reaction that she would have.
I agree with you.
Because she, she wants Patty to be straight. She really wants Patty to be straight. Like we're saying, it doesn't fit into her small worldview that her sister could be gay. Now she's like, oh, of course, she's actually a man. She just doesn't realize it, that she's actually straight.
So you read that scene as, oh, she's not gay. She's attracted to this man who's pretending to be a woman.
Yes.
That's not how I read it. I read it as like this little victory of like Marge's world stays perfect and she doesn't have to actually confront this thing anymore.
But we're not saying the two different things.
Well, but even beyond that, she's saying, you kind of mentioned this, like, my happiness can stay intact, and it doesn't matter that my sister's going to be heartbroken, like, everything's okay for me. I don't see Marge reacting that way.
That's what I'm saying.
Because Marge is a very empathetic person.
She is empathetic. I don't think she's happy that Patty's going to be heartbroken. I don't think she thinks Patty's going to be heartbroken. I think she's like, oh, Patty loves this person, Veronica. Patty is in love with Veronica, man or woman. Oh, thank God she's actually a man.
Yeah, okay.
And that's why it's kind of a surprise at the end
when
when Patty rejects Veronica. Even I think the audience was. I think we were supposed to think that she would go, "Oh, you're still."
I don't think so, because the whole thing is there's a tension during the ceremony where Marge isn't saying anything, and then it gets to the part where "Speak now or forever hold your peace," and then she finally speaks up. Like,
that's a good point. So because she knows if she speaks up early, it could threaten the marriage.
Yeah, like why wouldn't she have gone right to Patty and said, "Did you know that that's actually a dude?"
I guess you're right, because she doesn't want to.
She doesn't want to do it because
she wants her to marry Veronica.
Exactly.
That's a good point.
So that she's vindicated that, like, aha, you're not actually gay. You married a dude, you son of a bitch.
You got a point. You got a point.
Bam! I got lots of points today. Look for my book. I got a point coming from Marhouse and Barton.
All right, just switch it up to keep it light. What was up with Patty's hair?
I don't know what was up with Patty's hair.
It was rounder than usual.
It was.
It's pretty much just a round afro as opposed to her usual.
In the classic years, didn't Patty and Selma have, if not exactly the same hair, very similar hair?
Selma always had that like M shape.
Yeah.
And Patty always had a more solid block.
Okay.
But it wasn't spherical. This was more spherical. I don't know why.
Right, especially when
was she supposed to be that woman stick figure? What's the feminism the sign for women? It's like
I have no idea what you're talking about.
It's like a circle with a stick figure, and there's a circle with an arrow. One means man, one means woman.
Oh yeah, like the astrological, well, not astrological sign, like the circle with the cross under it, and then the circle with the arrow up on the right.
I mean, I was making a really stupid joke.
Yeah.
Now it's being drawn out
So
like
we'll
this.
just cut this. This is garbage file stuff.
Probably won't even cut it, but...
All right, well...
Speaking of bad animation, if in fact that the animation on her hair was off for this episode, there's also a scene where Homer's strangling Bart, and then he has to go answer the door, and he tells Lisa to save his place, and Lisa grabs Bart and just like kind of reluctantly just strangles Bart very weakly. First of all, it is just kind of a mean, we've already talked about how strangling is kind of icky now.
Yeah.
But even more so, bad animation is icky, and they
bad direction in that scene too. It didn't look good.
Bart and Lisa both make these weird sound effects that don't, and their lips aren't moving, so it's just really jarring and just ugh.
It was also this really like direct wide shot of them all in the dining room, and it was just like unimaginative. I don't know what just weird.
And they're also wearing their Sunday nice clothes, and Bart has his hair combed.
Yeah.
And I think Bart or Lisa says, "Why are we dressed up in our Sunday's Best Simpsons?" And when they say Sunday's Best Simpsons, it makes me wonder either A, maybe you can answer this. There's a toy figure line that's called Sunday's Best Simpsons.
There probably was.
Or if it's more of a meta joke, in maybe that's what the animators always call it when they put them in these models.
Yeah, it could be
the Sunday Best Simpsons models. It's either way. It seemed like it was a meta joke. If they just said Sunday's Best, it's like, why are we dressed up like this? But no. By saying Sunday's Best Simpsons, it's clearly saying, hey, we're in this stock model that we have.
Right. Yeah, I think you're right. It was probably just a meta thing.
I didn't mind it.
It was nothing to me. Just real quick, kind of going back a little bit. So when Homer is saying he needs one more couple to marry, that's when Patty knocks on the door and says, I need to get gay married. And maybe you remember better than I do, but she's like, I need to get gay married, like right away, like right now. why? There's no urgency at all. It was just like, why is she there right at that moment, being like, I gotta get gay married?
I mean,
like,
if it was
why is
real,
it happening now?
if it was real life, you usually have to get it done before the court revokes the law.
Yeah.
But that's a good point.
There was no. It was just like, now's the time when Patty comes into the story to set up the third act.
Yeah, and that ties into how you said it should have been referenced, or there should have been foreshadowing
exactly.
or built in the first act. You're right.
It was. I wrote down, this episode is very jumpy-aroundy.
It is jumpy-aroundy.
It's jumpy-aroundy because it's a Bart thing, it's a Homer thing, it's a Patty thing, it's a Marge thing. It's just everywhere at once, and there's no through line really, which I think having Patty earlier in the episode would have really solved.
That's a good point. It's a good point. Patty, there's a point where Homer's being a jerk-ass to Patty, and Patty burns her cigarette into his hand. And it was very much more extreme than the usual Patty Selma versus Homer stuff we've seen from the classic. It's again one of these where the post-classic are just taking what they did in the past and making it more extreme. Usually I don't like it. This time, when she put the cigarette in his hand, I was like, oh, that's a little much. And then she goes, next time it's in your eye.
Right.
And it's like, man, that was a little much. I didn't hate it, but it was a little much. But when she does it,
she actually does it in the eye.
And she does it in the eye. I didn't think they were going to do a callback. I was genuinely surprised, and it was just funny. Like it was. I really
was funny
laughed.
because it was real quick. It wasn't like, you burned me in the eye. I can't believe you actually did it. You better what you said you were gonna do.
Yeah.
Like that's something I could see them doing maybe now.
Yeah, or even then.
Yeah, or even then. You're right.
No, so I was pleasantly surprised with that callback.
I don't even remember the context of this. I have written down, change your name to Google-gob.
Yeah,
I know it's something Marge said.
Yeah, so that's another great Marge. Well, it's a great Marge thing where she makes up these gibberish words, and they've done this exact 1, 2, 3 beat with her on a few occasions.
Yeah.
So she says, "Sure, marry a woman, read a book with your feet.
Right,
do this,
that was it.
Do something with your Google-glock."
Yeah.
And like the gibberish word's funny, but basically she's doing again. Gay marriage is the same.
It's the same as reading with your feet.
Yeah, it's not the way you're supposed to do it.
Which, by the way, you can do nowadays with a Kindle. I read with my feet all the time.
So that, as much as I like the joke, again, it's in this weird, dangerous territory. It makes more sense for Marge because it's coming from a more personal place. It's not that she's anti-gay; it's that she really doesn't want Patty to marry a woman. But it's just, I don't really. It's a dangerous place to be. Keep comparing homosexuality with these other things that are not homosexuality, and not even pointing out that that's the case. So you're just you're okay with making this. You think it's a legit comparison, and it's not.
Yeah.
And I never really got the sense that the show didn't think they weren't legit comparisons.
Yeah, no, that was definitely something they didn't tie up. Let's talk about Homer's weird Homer on Homer fantasy really quickly.
Okay.
I don't even remember the context was of how it came
I don't
up.
remember
Like
either.
he was like, he was looking in the mirror and he's like, maybe one day I can marry you. And then he just has this weird fantasy of himself with himself and little Homer babies everywhere, and then he's just like full on making out with himself.
Subconsciously, they're saying that marrying somebody of the same sex is just as normal and legit and weird, I guess, as marrying yourself and making out with yourself.
I mean,
not so much as it's not really as problematic as the other ones because it's so surreal. But.
Yeah, the weird like surreal fantasy I'm kind of fine with. It was just that was really weird,
and they really go at it.
It got really uncomfortable.
But
very
I
quickly.
think that's the only way it really would work is if they really went at it. If they just kind of half-assed it, it would be like, why is this here? The fact that they really made it weird and like Homer is like, it was like more
full on sensual making out.
It was about as sensual as the show gets.
Yeah.
And I think they can get away with it that much because it's Homer making out with
ridiculous,
Homer. I don't know how I feel. Like I liked it. I thought it was funny. Again, I'm not sure if it belonged. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm with you on that.
What did you think of? There's another gag where Homer calls the Fox reality line to pitch a Fox reality show.
I completely blocked this out.
So it's like an automated. If you are calling Fox to pitch a reality show starring skanks, press 1. If you want to steal another network's reality show, but make it Fox's, press 2. Look, I get the joke, and I don't even think it's that dated because reality shows are still around.
Yeah.
And they were apt jokes about how, yes, a lot of them have skanks, and a lot of them are the same show from a different network.
Right. Especially around that time.
And it's fun for The Simpsons to make fun of their parent network, but it was such a long, drawn-out thing. You know, we get the joke immediately, even before he's like, I'm going to call the hotline. It's like, oh, that's funny. They have a hotline. They have a hotline.
Yeah.
They're so desperate for shows. But then to just see it, once you get the joke, and then it just keeps going on, and
Yeah.
It was such a waste of time, especially in an episode that needed every minute it could to
It really
enhance
did.
the story.
Like, a lot more story could have been in this episode, and less like gags that kind of could have gone in any episode, really.
Yeah.
Weird continuity / animation thing. Did you notice that Principal Skinner was in the audience, I guess, for Patty's wedding, which is odd because he was in love with her at one point.
Patty,
why would he go to his ex-girlfriend's lesbian wedding?
Give her some support.
I
He's
guess.
a good guy.
Skinner is a good guy. He's a good one.
There also in that scene, Homer says, "All right, let's get this marriage over. It's going to rain soon, and I got to get the bikes in the garage." I like that
funny.
because it's a very grounded dad moment.
Right.
Like it's very, very rare to see these days Homer just be a grounded dad.
That's true. Usually
which
he's just a buffoon or a monster.
Yeah, I mean, even in season 1, like there was a lot of
Season 1, Homer?
where he was talking about
Butts.
When two men have sex, they use their butts.
Homie. But...
Hey, man. Wait, that's
don't know who
that's Sammy Davis Jr.
Hey, man. Let the gays get married.
You dig? It's me, Bart. Let's get
Cowabunga, dude.
gonna get some frosty malted milkshakes.
Frosty mustard. What?
I don't know. I don't do voices. No, but I like that. It's just very rare. Even in season 1, you got a lot of grounded dad Homer, but he wasn't his
Yeah.
core. You know, he was already Homer. That was just a small part of his personality.
Right.
So now you never see it, and that was great. Just
agree.
a very, very nice dad thing to have.
It was good stuff. I don't have that much else to say. I did like, they ultimately don't get married because Patty proclaims that she likes girls and she doesn't want to marry a man. So she walks out, and Lisa says to Bart, like, well, I guess that's the end of Dad's wedding business. And Bart just goes, why?
Yeah,
That's why I
great,
like that.
because, and that does happen a lot of times where they wrap up their A plot,
Right.
but it doesn't quite reset the status quo. Whatever
Yeah.
set up the A plot is still kind of a
Like
hanging
Bonfire of the Manatees. Marge was still going to be like, I'm still going to help manatees.
yeah.
And that's obviously never happened again.
And that's actually probably in more episodes than it's not where that happens, is weird loose hanging thread. So it was a nice meta call out to that. Where
Right.
It's
I
like,
guess there are a few meta references in this episode.
Yeah, especially kind of this fairly early season 16. The show's definitely gotten more meta now, but this is 10 years ago. That was great. I love that. Like, why would his just because Patty's arc is wrapped up, why would Homer stop?
Exactly.
That was great.
Good stuff.
And then they don't even bother resolving it. They just end it.
Yeah,
with
it just
Bart
ends.
going,
It ends
"Why?"
that way.
Yeah.
Patty and Selma walk off into the sunset, which I liked, and that's the end.
So I just want to talk again real quick about Patty's decision, the big climax.
Sure.
So I think that was a big brave move. I really didn't like the way the show treated homosexuality. Like I said, there were some gay jokes that were insensitive, and then the biggest problem was this slippery slope thing they had going on. But for the most part, I do think the show is pretty progressive, and that even though Al Jean claims that they weren't taking a stance, I do agree that for the most part they are taking
There's a
progressive
pro
stance. Yeah,
gay
pro.
marriage straight through
I
this.
really love that, like, Patty doesn't end up with Veronica, where she's genuinely offended that she was lied to, and she goes, no, as much as I like you, Veronica, I'm not attracted to men. I don't
Right.
want a man. And that was great because what they were basically doing was giving the show an out to bring it back to the status quo. How do you have a major character come out but bring it back? But even though it's a little ridiculous, it's okay because of The Simpsons. You can get away with ridiculous. It's like, what if we make the lesbian that she's marrying a man?
Right.
And that's actually a great out for the show where they can go, see, she's not really gay. And like and I feel like that's something the show could have done. And even
To their credit, they did not.
And a few years ago, a few years before this, maybe they would have done it that way. But yeah, to the show's credit, they not only do it, but they go really out of their way to say, no, that's not the right answer. Because even though it felt a little preachy, not preachy, but a little, I don't know, like, patting themselves on the shoulder.
Yeah.
When she says, no, I don't want you, I'm not in love with a man, I don't want you.
Like this big defiant moment.
Yeah, and the audience actually claps.
Yeah.
And like, that was a little much, but it was also saying,
Well, the
like,
audience didn't have to clap, I guess.
but it's showing that, like, no, this is actually a pretty bold move. It's like, look, Patty is gay, and even though you're giving her an out, she doesn't want the out because there's no need for an out. She's gay. Why do you need an out?
That's it. That's who she is.
And I think that, if anything, that was probably the best statement the show could have made about gay marriage. It's like, it's exactly the opposite of what they were saying with the post-credit button. And it's basically saying, look, this is an issue, but it shouldn't be. It's normal.
Right.
It shouldn't be considered different. She is who she is. Like, that's a great way to say it, and it just sucks that they undermined it the entire time with these other, where they're pretty
all
much
these other
saying
issues.
the opposite. Yeah.
Well, call me old-fashioned, but I believe that marriage described in the Bible...
If you love the Bible so much, why don't you marry it? In fact, I now pronounce you in the Bible man and wife, and you're the wife. You owe me $200.
So a conflicted episode, one that should have been a good one, but kind of is a jumbled mess. But at this point, I don't think we have any more to say.
No,
I think
unless, do you have any fan fiction from when you were 13 about different South Park characters and Simpsons characters marrying each other?
Actually, I do have one with Big Gay Al, I think.
We don't have time.
We don't have time. All right. Another day. So yeah, I think it's time to rank this episode, and we do that in our 4-factor test, looking at the humor, the integrity, the production values, and the originality of the episode. If you don't want to know what those mean, go listen to another episode. I'm tired of explaining it. And we're going to rank it on a scale from 0 to 5. 2.5 is right in the middle. We'll put some time on the clock, and Jack and I are going to do that. And let's do it. Jack, the humor about this episode, there's something about marrying. What do you got? Scale of 5.
Definitely on the lower half.
On the lower side.
I'm trying to think. There was definitely a few jokes I really liked. I can't think of that many.
Like I said, at least for a couple of things, there were some cute ideas that weren't so much funny, like the radioactivity thing.
Yeah, I don't think there was anything I really loved. Sometimes even the worst episodes, we find something like, oh, that was great.
There was nothing that was great.
1.5. Maybe even a 1.
I'm going to go 1.5. I'm going to go 1.5 too. The integrity of the episode, where the characters kind of acting themselves.
So, like I said, for the most part, I think they did a good job with Marge.
Yeah.
And then this is tricky because is Homer just anti-gay? I mean, I don't like it, but if that's his character, that's his character. And again, there's no continuity with the show. But in Homer's Phobia, he
there's
came
a
out.
little bit of continuity. I mean, this episode is now canon, and that Patty is an out gay woman.
2.
I'm gonna also go 2. It doesn't feel.
Right.
This didn't feel like a good episode. Right. The production values, there was definitely stuff we didn't like.
Yeah, there was some weird direction glitches with audio and visual.
And there was nothing animation-wise that jumped out as being especially good.
Yeah,
so if we're starting from 2.5 and dinging it for the things we didn't like.
Yeah, I mean, they didn't have I'm
already thinking
they had that commercial that could have theoretically been some fun they could have with the animation, but it wasn't.
Yeah, it was
Blinky
just
was
whatever.
fun, even though it felt like a Family Guy joke.
That's true.
1.5.
I'm going to go 2, actually. So we just don't have the same damn score. And finally, the originality of the episode, it was a good idea that I don't think was executed well. So I'm going to ding it a lot for that.
I'm going to ding it a lot for the slippery slope issue that I really think was problematic.
Yeah.
And like we talked about pretty much all episode was they really botched the structure of the episode and didn't give the story its due. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to give it a low score, but what I'm going to do is I realize now, just the having Patty come out is a pretty great thing.
That's pretty much all of the points I'm giving is for that.
If I actually think I'm going to boost my integrity back to 2 from a 2 to 2.5
right.
because that's a great Patty integrity score. So I'm gonna boost that up to a 2.5, but I'm taking that away from production. I'm gonna give this a 1.
Okay, wow. I'm gonna give 1.5 on this one.
I'll give it a 1.5 too. All
right, I'm glad I could change your mind. Okay, so we've crunched our numbers, and on our very scientific scale, we have found There's Something About Marrying to be slightly better than Treehouse of Horror 20. That was episode 5, way back that we did. And slightly worse than That 90s Show, episode 3, even further back that we did.
Yeah.
So
it's not a great episode.
In between those two not great episodes, I think that's right, because overall we thought this was a fairly bland episode that did a lot of things well and a lot of things very not well.
It was a bland episode that was severely flawed with its structure.
Right.
And then the way it treated a very big, important issue such as gay rights, this being Gay Rights Month and all, really all over the place. It did some things really well, and then it had that weird slippery slope stuff. So it was really just kind of a hot mess.
Yeah, I agree, and I think that's the right place for it. Okay, so that is it for this episode of Worst Episode Ever. We've got a couple of things we've got to say. we want you to go to our website. That's weepodcast.com, weepodcast.com.
I'm nodding vigorously.
Yes,
in
you are.
agreement.
Thank you, Jack. From there, you can get to our Facebook, our Twitter. You can leave comments right on the page. You can get to the suggestion form. You can submit your own episode to have us watch. We've been getting a lot of really great comments, but guys, keep them coming. Like, if you think someone's surely suggested that episode where Mo has a talking rag, suggest it again, because we're tallying up how many episodes have the most votes.
Yeah, some have more.
Yeah.
I mean, sometimes we'll do ones that weren't suggested at all, but whatever.
Yeah. Well, kind of like this one, but this was a thematic one we wanted to get to. It was suggested, but we lost who suggested it to time. So sorry.
This was one of the earlier suggested ones,
which is why we made the form. So use the form, re-suggest episodes if you suggested them before, because we may have missed them. And you can do all that on wepodcast.com. And while you're there, if you click through our Amazon links and just shop how you normally would, all you got to do is click our link first. We get a very small percentage of what you spend, and that helps keep the show going for free to the listener. If you're listening to this the day it comes out, and it's still early enough, you can go to Woohoo Classic Simpsons Trivia in Brooklyn. It's today. It is the first Thursday of every month, except for July, actually, because of the July 4th weekend. We moved to the second one. But that is at Berry Park in Brooklyn. You can go on our website. You can get more information about that, or you can just Google Woohoo Classic Simpsons Trivia and find one in your neighborhood. There's one in Toronto. There's one in Detroit now. There's one in Chicago that's very big. They're all over the place, so you can check that stuff out. And if you want to follow us individually on Twitter, I am at ThenDanSays.
I'm at Jackie No Breaks, and also check out my Facebook blog page, Using a Sentence, with my old spelling homework. It makes a lot more sense if you check it out. Using a Sentence / website. I don't know. You'll find it.
It's good stuff. Next week, we're going to be back, doing it again. And we have an episode from season 18. It is called The Whole Hog Couple.
Yeah. It's Nelson's birthday. It's
Nelson's
also
birthday.
my
And it's also
birthday.
your birthday and my
also
birthday.
your birthday.
Not the same day, but
big birthday week.
It's coming out on your actual birthday, and then my birthday is the following Saturday. So give us a happy birthday message if you like the show, and buy us gifts. If you'd like to.
You can even keep the gifts, and we'll just take the Amazon.
Yeah, that's true. Just buy a gift for
percentage.
yourself on Amazon. That will be great. Okay, so we have been doing our Wee Summer of Fans, our Cut All This submissions.
Our cats.
I like that.
Yeah.
The Wee Cats.
Yeah, this is send in your cat submissions. Meow.
Be a cool cat. Go to the website and go to the Cut All This page. It's basically just a picture of us and a link to our email. But what we want from you is just a clip of you saying Cut All This. We want to get our listeners involved in the show, and we also don't know how to end the show. So today we've got to Cut All This submission
from Marie from Pittsburgh, PA. So Marie, take it away.
My name's Marie. I'm from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. I want to say the show is great except for all this random-ass Simpsons talk that you guys do. This is really not what I tune into the show for. I really wish you guys would stop fucking talking about the Simpsons. That'd be great. The random-ass voice characters that you do, that's what I'm here for. Yeah, I'm going to start this over. I don't like the way that this sounds. You know what? Fuck it. Cut all this.